So once a company, an organization gets accepted into the Good Business Alliance, they become eligible for capital, financial capital from Ujima, correct?
Yes.
So tell us how that works.
So what we do is we let the business know, congratulations, you've been invited to join the alliance. And the business isn't going to let us know whether or not they accept. We ask them to fill out a form, at which point they let us know what type of support they need. So again, just stressing, not only can they have investment, they can also have other types of support. We link them up with one of our TA partners to talk about all of the different types of support.
TA being technical assistance.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
TA
sure,
being
no
technical assistance. To talk about all of the different types of support that they need. And at the point that we're talking investment, we start due diligence. Due diligence looks a little more traditional. So it's a little more recognizable with other processes. I think the one thing that's a little unique that has Ujima flavor is we do have some community process within our due diligence process as well. So we create a credit memo or an equity memo. And that goes out to our members. And we ask our members to review the memo. It's the same, it's some of the same information that our investment committee gets, not all of it. We ask them to ask questions and to provide feedback. And so the way we think of it is we have around 400 something odd voting members. So the way we think of it is it's like a 400 person investment committee because they're getting right. Exactly. They're getting.
I got 9. That's a lot. So.
Exactly. Well, and the idea is, we're getting that much more expertise. We're getting that much more by way of research. We're getting that much more by way of feedback and questions and flags. So we take that. That goes to business to address the questions and the feedback. And then we do a final investment opportunity memo that includes then recommendations from our investment committee or remarks from our investment committee. And that's where the vote happens. In that memo, there's a ballot and our members are able to vote a straight yes or a straight no. The other thing that we do that I like is we also provide a couple of abstention options. So members can abstain and affirm the majority, or they can abstain and not affirm the majority. So we also, I think, take care not to kind of make everything a binary, I guess, for lack of a better word, or extreme up or down. We also have a yes, although I have some concerns. So really trying to create room for people to have varying levels of certainty when it comes to decision making.
So great. They get to make this decision about the allocation of capital, but whose capital is it?
Yeah. It's again, going back to that multi-stakeholder approach, it is primarily community members' capital. It is primarily, what I say is regular people's capital. I think we have around, if I remember correctly, 387 something investors, and the bulk are individual investors. We have some anchor institutions that have invested, primarily faith institutions, so congregations. I think we have 7 of those, and then we have 2 kind of institutional impact investors. But yeah, out of 387 investors, regular people.
Regular people in financial terms, you mean non-accredited investors, community
exactly.
Lower wealth investors,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the Ujima Fund, I always say, 80% of the design of the Ujima Fund is based on Boston Impact Initiative's design.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have a couple of pools or a couple of tranches. One that is reserved solely for Massachusetts residents. So that's our Kuji Chakalia pool, Swahili for self-determination. And that was kind of the best and closest way we could get to signaling to working class people, to BIPOC people, this is an opportunity that's for you. The other thing that we did with that, again, to kind of signal that, was to try to make it as accessible as possible. It's not the most accessible, but it's pretty accessible with a minimum $50 investment. The other thing that we've done is we've also targeted that pool for the highest returns. So that's very intentional. I've had some friends in the past who have very gently kind of asked me if that was a mistake. And because what we're used to traditionally is, for example, the next pool down, the minimum investment is $1,000. And the targeted returns there are 2%. Whereas for the pool that I just talked about, where the minimum investment is $50, the targeted return is 3%. People are used to it being the other way around. You put in more, you get more out. And
you take more risk. So I've talked about it before, is you transmute risk into return.
Exactly.
So if I'm taking more risk, I should get more return. And we're saying, let's flip that.
Exactly. So likewise, we've done the same. And we've tried to direct that benefit again to working class people, BIPOC people who would not normally have this opportunity.
Anything else you want to highlight in the capital stack, your note types?
The other thing is, so I talked about this kind of.
Is there a note named after you? Because there's a Nia note.
There is. It's not named after me. So it's not named after me. But what I will say is the notes. So Ujima, I don't think we actually ever said this.
I don't think you said.
Ujima
what is Ujima?
Swahili for cooperative work and responsibility. It's recognizable as one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And the other notes, or the notes in the Ujima Fund, are also named after Kwanzaa principles. So I talked about Kuji Chakalia already. The other note to talk about is Umoja notes. I mentioned this. The minimum investment is $1,000. And we have two, I guess.
Flavors?
Yeah, 2 flavors. Thank you. One for unaccredited investors in Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine, and Colorado. And that's a function of just ease of application in those states.
It's also a regulatory process for non-accredited. Each state has to have a unique state filing, which is different than the national filings.
Exactly. And I'm from California. Aaron Tanaka, who I mentioned earlier, is from California. We would have loved, for example, to have California in that, but we were told by our attorneys, very difficult process. And then there's another flavor that's for accredited investors, but Umoja is Swahili for unity. So that's the other piece that I wanted to point out, is we worked to make this accessible not just for non-accredited investors in Massachusetts, but in as many other states as we could muster as well.
And so then the Nia note and the Imani gift. Do you just want to point those out?
Yeah, sure. So the Nia note, Nia is Swahili for purpose. And that is for accredited investors only, targeted towards philanthropic institutions. Minimum investment is $5,000. What I will say is we anticipated that this would be the hardest to fundraise for, and it was indeed the case. So I don't know if you've talked about that in previous sessions. When we first started out kind of letting people know about Ujima, we did something that I thought was really smart and cool, which is we created an interactive workshop. And part of that workshop we would have people kind of role play different types of actors and different types of investors and talk about what they would put into the capital stack. And you could probably just say a little bit more about this than I can. We would kind of point out how philanthropy or institutional philanthropy, with all its resources, you would be surprised about how little they would put in, and that has been our experience. I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but we did have some foundations invest in Ujima, and it wasn't many. Maybe it was 2. I think maybe we had 2, maybe 3 foundations invest in Ujima. So that's notable because we know a bunch of people are starting up funds, and it's an obstacle they should not be surprised by. And then finally, the Imani gift pool. Imani is Swahili for faith, and that's our loan loss reserve. We had it targeted at $500,000. The whole fund is a $5 million fund, $4.5 million for investment capital, and $500,000 to help us deal with any bad or terrible decisions we've made in investment,
or just entrepreneurship,
or just the way life happens. So kind of help recover some funds.
Great. Okay, so that's your capital stack. Did you raise the $5 million?
We did. launched the fund December 2018, and we reached our goal July 2021. So it took us a few
Fantastic.
years. Thank
Excellent.
you.